Good job. Good thing you got sisters.
I know. Well, my husband kind of knows them.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Very good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Probably. In my script.
Andy. Recording in progress.
Something's coming up in my brain.
This is my first term. Been on for okay. All right, everyone, welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. As far as the ACHD side of this gathering today, I will go ahead and call us in order and indicate for the record that we do have a quorum. Mr. Chair, very warm welcome to you and your team. And if you wouldn't mind, I will turn it over to you to make the appropriate introduction.
Thank you very much. Bill Mudd, Chairman, ITD. With us today we have Director Stokes, and we have Jan McElhaney, Chief Operating Officer, Amy Schroeder's fantastic engineer, Molly McCarty, Communications, and our board member Julie De Lorenzo, District 3. Caleb, I always forget somebody, usually Julie.
It's usually me.
I think that's all that I have. So.
All right, very good. Just for the record, we have Commissioner Dave McKinney, Commissioner Alexis Pickering, Commissioner Jim Hansen, and Commissioner Goldthorpe is not with us. He's out of town at a family reunion. So Director Wong, with that, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, Madam President, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Welcome to the Ada County Highway District. It's great to see all of you here, and we have a very interesting and I think very important line of information pass from and share with all of you. So what I'd like to do is just start what we call ACHD 101 and such for all of you. And with that being said, Stacy, next please. Mr. Chairman, we are 5 districts all rolled into one and such. As you can see, there are our elected officials. You met all of them but Commissioner Goldthorpe across the board. And as I know all of you, I hope all of you know, we are one of one in Idaho and one of one in the nation in a regional highway district when it comes down to operations for transportation. Next slide, please. This is what we do. These are the key takeaways for all operations here at the Ada County Highway District. As I said earlier, we are led by 5 elected officials and such, and they have something very special called ordinance authority, which was one of the criteria for putting together the Ada County Highway District about 50 years ago. And as you can see, we have our time capsule in the back. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary. And in that time capsule, some very amazing things to include, I hope, a very expensive bottle of scotch that I asked maintenance to put in there. Didn't watch them put it in there, but I'm hoping that it's still there. We are fairly large for a highway district. You can see all the things that are composed under the commission's authorities across the board, to include a very large economic impact into Ada County and Idaho across the board and such. Next, please. Everybody done with this one? Thanks. Next. I always like to show, you got to show a chart, and so we do it very, very quickly. You saw a lot of flags on our opening presentation, and the reason that they're there is we have entertained delegations from all those countries, and we've entertained them at the request of the U.S. State Department to come to Idaho and visit, of course, other areas across the board. But what they wanted to come to us to talk to us about was how we have successfully dealt with 6 different governments, city governments, government in Ada County, the state and federal areas without violence, without all sorts of different aspects that these countries have not had the opportunity to live through and such. So they come to us to understand how we do this. And as a matter of fact, the first country, Bhutan, that came to visit us actually wanted to take our equipment back with them because in their country they have all of one stoplight in the entire country, and they have no equipment to service it and such. So we provide them all the information they need, and again, they're here to understand why we do this without corruption which I think is a tremendous signal to Idaho and the U.S. when it says they're coming here to learn how we do business across the board. Next slide, please. Your ACHD also contributes highly to the community on all sorts of different areas across the board. We hold an annual golf tournament that is strictly volunteer by our team members. And as you can see from the numbers up there, we offer a pretty big return on when it comes down to saying thank you to the community. Last year, we supported the Wyken Warriors, and we presented them a check for $220,000 and such. Our goal here is to vary the charities annually, but there are only 3 criteria that I've put down. Has to be about families, has to be about children, has to be about the military families and such. And we do a very, very good, our team does a very, very good job at that. As a matter of fact, this upcoming tournament on September 10th, we are supporting the first tee of Idaho. So we hope to improve, General Counsel, on our $220,000 to make it higher, based on that tremendous program that really supports children across Ada County and Idaho across the board. Next slide. Mr. Chairman, we also do a little thing called the Idaho Patriot Thunder. And I want to right up front thank your Jason Price. He was tremendous in supporting us again this year for all the appropriate permits and everything else that goes on with this type of event. This year we had 750 riders out supporting 2 organizations. That's the Operation Warm Heart at Mountain Home Air Force Base about families, Guard and Reserve Family Support Fund. We'll be giving 2 very large checks to those organizations at the end of this month. And again, we were very, very grateful for ITD's support on this. And I must say I saw first on the ride because I lead the ride. And it was after 12 years, Mr. Chairman, ITD finally put up, and we were very grateful, Thunder on your overhead billboards. We were very thankful for that and such. But it is a great partnership, and the money goes to great things. Next, please. So this is our current inventory. And as you'll see on the slide there, there's one common theme, and growing across the board. Your Ada County Highway District, like all of you, continue to be faced with growing challenges, growing requests, growing requirements across the board based on the tremendous influx of people we have coming into Ada County. I met an individual Saturday who had come in, and it was kind of interesting. On his license plate, he blanked out, it was a California driver, he blanked out the bottom of his license plate and just said, "Just visiting." I thought that was very smart on his part and such. Next, please. This is what we do across the board. The commissioners are what we like to say, they have to wear a regional hat, as ITD does across the board. And at the end of the day, those are our key requirements and requests from the cities. And what's very interesting about this organization is that we are constantly involved with the public, and our commissioners are always honest brokers when it comes down to making those tough decisions as to where the dollars are that we will execute. Again, same with the board and ITD. But as you can imagine, it gets sometimes very interesting because the recipients are just sitting right there and such across operations. Next slide, please. So this is how we do it. We have a strategic plan that goes 20 years out plus. We have our capital improvements plan, 20 years. We have our integrated 5-year work plan, 5 years. And then we marry it to our 2-year budget and plans. Now, it's simple to put up on the screen, but it takes a year to get from the start to the end each year. And then the commission has that very difficult task, as the board does, of determining, based on all this information and all the recommendations over that year-long period, what and where the commission is going to invest dollars and what and where projects they're going to invest in moving forward. It's highly collaborated between the cities and the county, and at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it's a pretty good process to make sure we are efficiently and effectively taking care of the taxpayers' dollars when it's sold. Next slide, please. Our priorities, and they're not in order, they really aren't, but these are the things that we believe are very important in any organization, be it private or government, across the board. And we always highlight that here, people are profit centers. They're not cost centers and such. And I know that you see that always in ITD, and I had an opportunity to sit down with Scott and Dan last week, and again, you have a tremendous team going forward. We're very appreciative for that team that you've put together. Next slide. Well, this is how the commissioners and us allocate dollars. At the end of the day, it is the commission's decision across the board. That is our current two-step approach, and as we say on the bottom, everything is based on commission decision, direction, and the strategic plan, that 20-plus year thing that moves forward on operations. Next, please. This year, after adjustments, our budget is $157 million, and it's all spoken for, and such across the board. Next. Quick state of our district. We have key things that the commission has asked us to focus on, and we like to look at this as what we call commander's intent. And what that means is that if I do not see or speak to the commission, those are the things that the commission wants us to accomplish for that year going forward. Again, it's at the 100,000-foot level, as you can imagine, and such, but underneath each one of those bullets is a long list of things that have to be done that makes those happen and such. Next. We're very excited about this. We have, for the last couple of years, been quietly investing in properties. And we have, before the boom started, before everything went skyrocketing and such, we were able to successfully purchase properties at Houston, Franklin, and Apple Way for our expansion of the Ada County Highway District, so that we can better serve our constituents and serve them faster with the growing populations. Our Houston facility will be servicing North Meridian type of area, and as you know, it's growing leaps and bounds across on there, but of course in unincorporated Ada County. Our traffic operations center, which is right across the street now, sharing with a complex with our maintenance complex, will be moving to our Franklin facility, which is about 2 blocks west of our current Cloverdale operations, and it'll be a standalone, stand-up traffic operations, traffic control, traffic management center operations. And then our Apple Way facility will actually take the place of our facility across the street when we move Adams to that facility, which gives us better access, a railhead and such, and as important is nowhere near the river and such. Now, that all being said, next slide, please. This is the timeline that we've presented to the commission, and we are budgeting toward in making operations. Of course, the first is our Franklin. Our plan is to be done in 2 years, to have everything stood up, ready to go. For Houston, as you can see, it's a little further drawn out. We have had great support from Meridian on making this work, and we are in partnership with expanding some of the infrastructure out there, not only support this facility, but to support the community in Meridian, and it's going along very, very well. That's part of that Houston widening here to ensure that everything's done safely and such, and I guess answer the growth. Federal Way, that is the new, I'll call it kid on the block. We were very successful in purchasing that property at a very great price, and so our objective is to piecemeal stand up this operation and then move the Adams operation to there, so that we close that, open that. It's a seamless thing going forward. As you can see, those are the years that we're looking at this point in time, and what's important, of course, we are budgeting to make that happen. And so very, very exciting for the Ada County Highway District to expand this level for the first time basically in our history. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about money. looking into the forward. I talked earlier about our integrated 5-year work plan. This is where we are recommending, or it's been approved already by the commission, where we will be investing those dollars that the taxpayers quote loan us on an annual basis, and in which areas. As you can see, the blue there is where we get the revenue. The red is where we are putting it in and such. And over a span of 20 years, you'll find those lines almost equal. So to me, that indicates a tremendous job on our commissioner's part of, again, wearing that regional hat to ensure that all the dollars are invested where growth is going, at the same token in a fair manner, so that everybody rises successfully at about the same pace going forward. Next slide, please. Integrated 5-year work plan. That's what's been approved. Those are the dollars. Those are the number of projects that we already have on our radar scope that we are working through. Next, please. And what I want to do is very quickly run down where the dollars are, in what buckets, and such going forward. As you can see, capital maintenance program, again, is key. If we spend $1 on the maintenance, it saves us spending $15 to repair something or replace it later on downstream. So that's where our focus has been and continues to be in operations here. Next slide, please. Just a quick wrap up next. And from a low pie chart's always got to have one. And so that's where the percentage of dollars of that integrated 5-year work plan will be focused on as we move forward. Next slide, please. At the end of the day, I'm sure you'll agree with me that, again, as with ITD, with a dedicated team, anything's possible across the board. And so, Mr. Chairman, members, this is just a very, very quick overview of ACHD 101. More than happy to stand for any questions that you might have at this point.
Thank you, Director Wong. Any questions or comments?
Okay.
I have one question. How much property do you have on Ustick?
Say again?
On Ustick, how much property did you purchase?
20? Say again? 27. And I know he's here, and but the mayor and city council were very supportive on that moving forward. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much. All right, our next item, Idaho Transportation Department. General update on ITD's Highway 16 project.
Maybe I can just introduce that if I may.
Please do.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Just would first like to say thanks to Director Wong and how much we appreciate the great working relationship and partnership. The people that we all jointly work for, they don't really care who it is that owns and maintains those roadways. I would expect that Director Wong, like I do, he probably gets a lot of questions on state highways, and I get a lot of questions on ACHD roadways. And so it really doesn't matter. We work as a unified team to bring the service to citizens of Idaho and the Treasure Valley. And in terms of investments, I think that it's notable if you look back for the last few years how important the Garvey program was, starting back in the mid 2005-06, that really made some important enhancements to the interstate system in the Treasure Valley with the Broadway. Vista was part of that, even though we used some stimulus dollars, but all the interchanges, Meridian Interchange, ultimately 10 Mile, all the way out to Micron even, and now we're still using Garvey funds out in Canyon County. And where would we have been if the legislature and the governor had not supported those types of investments to arterials that affect us all? And so now we're into another phase of that, which is some bonding on state funds, as you are well aware, what we call the TECM program, Transportation Expansion Congestion Mitigation, and Amy Schroeder has been our lead all the way through the Garvey program as well as now in the TECM program. And I think that we're going to see that investments on Highway 16, as that is connected, is again another generation of bringing capacity and arterial movement for the transportation system, that we're just going to have such a great appreciation for that over the next however many years, because of, again, the support of those policymakers that make that possible. So in order to maybe be most efficient efficient, we have Amy Schroeder with us today, if that would be all right. She could give us an update of the status and the development of that project.
Absolutely, thank you very much and welcome.
Where would you like me to present from?
Would you like to come up here? Yeah, thank you very much. It's always good to see you.
Thank you for having me today. It's always fun to talk about State Highway 16 and the improvements we're making here in the valley. Everybody at the table has a State Highway 16 summary packet. Talks about the construction that is just beginning. Also about the funding and the funding type in the corridor. And the last page has some more facts and figures and dates. Excuse me. Generally speaking, we're approaching the corridor construction in phases. And so what you'll see starting this year is construction of the main line between I-84 and Chinden. And we've split that 5 miles into 3 construction packages. So the first 2, we've already awarded contracts to construction contractors, and the third one will still be advertised and awarded this fall so that we can make the irrigation windows and get the irrigation work done this fall. What you can see on the last page, some time frames. These are multi-year contracts. So we will be out there working through 2024 to build the main line. And the main line includes the at-grade signalized intersections at Franklin Road, at Ustick Road, and at Chinden, and a new service interchange at I-84. So if phase 3 does not get funded, like, you know, we're just trying to step through this and phase it so that we can use the facility if funding is limited. And that's why we've phased the construction of the main line. You will still be able to get on and off at the 2-mile spacing at Franklin, at Ustick, at Chinden, and at State Street. That was originally planned in the environmental impact statement, so that is what we're putting into place. There will be bridges over Cherry Lane and also over McMillan Road, and there will be no ramps and there won't be any future access there. So we're preserving that right-of-way and the access control from the beginning. And then what is currently in design, which is shown on the bottom of the last page, is all of the interchanges. So the next phase of work is to go back into the footprint at each of those local road crossings and build the ramps. And so this is showing that the Ustick and 2026 interchanges will be delivered first. The design will be done next summer. We're acquiring all of the right-of-way for these future interchanges right now with phase 2. So we'll just go back into the footprint that we've purchased and build these interchanges. The department has not decided yet if these will be funded, how they'll be funded, and so we'll have these designs ready, and when funding is available and the department decides to move these forward, we'll be able to advertise these and award a contract. The next ones that will be ready then are the interchange at State Highway 44 near Star, and then also the system interchange, which are the direct connect ramps with no stops at I-84. So think about Flying Y at State Highway 16's intersection with I-84. So we're developing those in 3 groups. They're shown there at the bottom of the page. The estimated construction for the phase 3 work is $200 million for the interchanges. That's shown there at the top. And I stand for any questions that you might have about the status of the project or the plan to move it forward.
Thank you very much, Amy. Are there any questions or comments for Amy?
Madam President?
Commissioner Kipling?
Amy, you just alluded to, phase 3 design and pursuing additional funding. What types of funding sources are you looking for or aiming to apply for to pay for those design elements? Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioner, if I may. The design is being complete so that it could be federal aid eligible. So the funding type is, it could be state funds or it could be federal aid, depending upon what is available when the project is ready. The TECM program, Transportation Expansion Congestion Mitigation Program that Scott mentioned, is a good candidate for the funding type, or any type of budget surplus could be applied to it. or the ongoing Leading Idaho money as well.
Thank you.
What you'll see in, sorry to
You're
sorry to
fine.
interrupt. What you'll see in our draft ITIP is our projects programmed in early development, and these future interchanges are in early development, but they're funding neutral at this time.
Very,
Madam President?
very good. Commissioner McKinney?
Yes, if I may, just, and I think it's worth mentioning just briefly, and maybe this is a question for Director Wong, but it'd be good for everyone to know, what is the status of the funding that the state gave to ACHD for our portion of interacting with, or I guess connecting to the Highway 16? I'm curious if we have an update on those fund amounts and where they stand.
Madam President, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kenny, great question. We continue to work toward that. We're confident that with the reconvening of the legislature, that'll all be sorted out, and we'll be moving forward on that.
So my understanding is that last year that the commitment was made, we had a dollar amount of something like 34 million or something like that was part of the bill that passed back in, I guess it was March or so. And so what's required going forward then?
What's required, it will be just a little tightening up of the language that came out of JFAC, so that can be pushed forward through the legislature. Again, all those folks that have a role in that are confident that when this does come in front of the legislature on one of their first bills, this will all be addressed, and I'm optimistic that this is, again, as a tightening of language only issue, so to speak.
So are those funds likely to come in pieces over a period of time, or do we know?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know yet.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, any further comments or questions? Thank you very much, Amy. We appreciate the update. Look forward to this project going forward. All right, our next, there he goes. Tom Laws, ACHD, supporting ACHD projects to ITD's Highway 16 project. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission and the Board. For the record, my name is Tom Laws, Planning and Programming Manager here with the Ada County Highway District. And today I'm just going to show a few quick slides to speak a little bit about our adjacent priority projects directly in relation to Highway 16. There we go. So just two slides. The first one will be a map highlighting those priority projects, and then I'll talk a little bit about the next steps in terms of the potential scheduling with that. So I'll go ahead and orientate you first with this map. So what you're seeing here is really western Ada County, with this brown dotted line being the Highway 16 future alignment. There's a light black dotted line here that goes along Canada, Ustick, and then down McDermott Road, which is our county boundary. So everything more or less west or east of that is within Ada County and Ada County Highway District's jurisdiction. And then the area over here is Canyon County. For the most part, what this includes is Western Meridian, as well as just Southern Star, and then you start to see a little bit of the city of Nampa down into the southeast here. And so currently we're looking at a variety of potential projects over the next few years to really help complement the work that's being done at ITD with Highway 16. And I'll start on the south and kind of work our way up. And so the first being expanding the last segment of Franklin Road from Black Cat to McDermott Road to the final 5-lane configuration. In addition with that, there will be an intersection improvement there to expand that out to the 5 lanes. And then we've been working with the city of Nampa to continue in Canyon County to have connection to the interchange. As Amy mentioned, so we have Franklin as one of the main interchanges, the second being Ustick. And so strategically, we're focusing on Ustick as that second corridor to move forward with to help complement Highway 16. And so with here, we have the mile segments from Linder to 10 Mile to be completed out to that 5-lane arterial, 10 Mile to Black Cat to McDermott. And actually with Black Cat to McDermott, sorry, it goes to Owyhee Storm, which is the connection to the new highway, the new high school out there, Owyhee High School. And then finally, that Hawaii storm to Star Road, expanding that section. And in those cases, we've been coordinating with Nampa Highway District as well, primarily on this section of Ustick Road, where the southern portion is part of Nampa Highway District jurisdiction, the northern section, Ada County. With that also, there is a realignment of McDermott Road that we'll be looking at, as well as an intersection improvement at that time as well. And then finally, two other intersection improvement projects, one at Black Cat and McMillan, and then one at Star and Chinden, Highway 2026, which particularly with that project, but really without, I just want to say, thank you so much for ITD. You've been really, really great partners with that project, and then throughout to make sure that the coordination, is going hand in hand throughout this effort. We have projects in different stages. Yes.
Sorry, is it okay to just ask
Absolutely.
questions as we go, Madam Chairman?
Hop right in, Julie.
Tom and maybe Amy, it looks like our project priorities are maybe flipped, Ustick and Franklin. I think we're doing Ustick first and then moving to Franklin, and it looks like Franklin first and Ustick here. I'm just wondering how that all is going to dovetail together and help with all the traffic flowing off of 16. And so whoever wants to answer.
Madam President, Board Member DiLorenzo, this map I'd say is pretty preliminary, especially with those dates. The nice thing is almost every project on here is either actively being designed or the design is ready to begin in the next year or two. And so the construction schedule is still very, very tentative. And I think now that we have a better understanding of ITD's direction, that's something we can really look at in terms of making sure that that process is as seamless as possible.
Thank you. You guys are probably talking all the time.
If you don't mind, I could elaborate just a little bit more. Franklin is a detour to I-84. It's a higher priority route for the region than Ustick may be. Ustick is the cross-county, all the way through the valley, east-west route, but Franklin is critical for detours to I-84 as well.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you for that, Amy. And so just in conclusion with the next steps, so as I mentioned, several of these projects are currently actively under design, or what we call our concept or scoping efforts. But the goal is to have all of the design for these projects to be completed roughly around 2024, where starting in fiscal year 2023 or just this October, we'll really get into the right-of-way phases of these projects, with the bulk of the construction beginning in 2025 to 2027. But as I mentioned, we had a few projects such as that Star, Chinden, which is aiming for construction next year. And with that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Any questions or comments for Tom?
Madam President, I have a
Commissioner
question,
McKay?
and actually this is going back similar to what just happened a moment ago. This is a question that may be better for Amy or others with the state, but is the Highway 16 and Chinden intersection always intended to be an at-grade signalized intersection, or is there an ultimate intent in the future to have a grade separated interchange or anything like that? Do we have any information on that?
Great. Thank you, Madam President. All of the intersecting roadways that I mentioned, they're also on your map there, Commissioner, will be grade separated interchanges. So I-84, Franklin Road, Ustick Road, Chinden, and State Street will all have grade separated interchanges.
So there isn't any current plan to ultimately do a grade separated interchange at the 2026 and Highway 16?
There is.
There is.
We're doing the design now. Yes.
Oh, so that is part of this project. So the
It
grade
is.
separated, okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to clarify. Great, thank you.
Good question, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next, ACHD update to the design of the Linder Overpass. It's Rachel Spear. Welcome, Rachel.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Spear. I'm the PM for this project. Just quickly, I've been at ACHD for a little over a year. Prior to that, I spent over 20 years in the Seattle area building large-scale projects and overpasses like this. See which one. This is a vicinity map of the project. It starts at Overland Road and goes all the way up to Franklin. It includes a five-lane widening on the roadway, and then the overpass will be 4 lanes. It also includes 2 pedestrian hybrid beacons and 2 smaller structures over the Kennedy Lateral and the 10 Mile Creek. And then, of course, the star of the show is the overpass. Keller was selected as the prime consultant, and they were given notice to proceed in May after the ACHD Commission approved the design contract. Design is expected to last approximately 18 months, which puts us at 95% in December 23. Our first major milestone will be 30% conceptual design in October. That will put the public involvement meeting in early November. Currently, right-of-way and construction are not in the integrated 5-year work plan. We've put a high priority on coordination and communication with the city of Meridian. So we have weekly update meetings between myself and also Miranda Carson, excuse my pointing, the PM for the city of Meridian. We also attend the monthly task force meetings. In addition to that, we're meeting frequently with Meridian, ITD, and then the project team as any questions arise. So we of course strive to answer questions expeditiously as they come up. This is the proposed typical roadway section. It's 4 11-foot travel lanes, an 11-foot center turn lane, 5-foot buffer, and a 10-foot multi-use pathway. This will give us a level of traffic stress of 2, which for this corridor is actually quite good. The proposed ITD typical bridge section is 4 11-foot travel lanes, a 5-foot buffer or shy distance, and a 10-foot multi-use path. We have already met with ITD in order to get buy-off for this section. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Commissioners, any questions or comments, or Mr. Chair?
I do. Rachel, on the 5-lane expansion, how much right-of-way are you going to have to buy? Do you have acres, feet?
Because we just started design, I can't give you an exact number.
Madam President? So can you tell us kind of when the design is going to be complete and then what those next steps are going to be, timeline-wise?
Madam President, Commissioner, ultimately, the 95% design will be completed at the end of 23. After that, since we don't have funding or it's not programmed, I can't give you an exact answer of when we will start right-of-way or construction.
Are there to have those details in place to expedite that?
Let me help you with this. The commissioners, Commissioner, as you know, the project is a design-only project. That's it. After that is done, there is at least no other action being programmed, no other action being taken at this point. However, if that's something that the commission and the ITD would like to relook at some point in time in coordination with Meridian, that's most appropriate. But right now, when this design is done, there is no next step.
Currently.
Currently. I wanted to say that right up front, currently.
Madam President, Rachel, is this a similar, overpass as what we did at Cloverdale? Very close.
It's close.
Mr. Chair, Steve?
I've got Caleb over there ready to go, so a couple of questions for probably Director Wong. Would be South Cuna, the Cuna area, the expansions out there. You're talking about, what's the name of the project to go around the back of Cuna for the freeway? We have, on our side, Highway 45 extensions. We have all these things happening in the south end there. I see tremendous growth out there and limited highways back in there, going from north to south, Black Cat, and all those going in there. How in the world do one fund those things to make them wider? Is, as a layperson looking at them, driving out there, there's just a lot of traffic going through that.
Mr. Chairman, Madam President, spot on across that. And at the end of the day, as you deal daily here with Idaho, there are lots of priorities, and then our commission, as regional heads, they get to make that determination as to where those dollars are going to go. I'm sure you're well aware that Meta is now engaging. We were part of that process to, we're in coordination with that group when it comes down to what type of infrastructure the Ada County Highway District can support moving down there. But you're absolutely right. South of the airport, south of Cuna, north of Star, north of Eagle, it is expanding, as we say in the Air Force, on afterburner. So we are well aware of that, and at the end of the day, there is a dollar, and you get to cut it up, or the commission gets to cut it up. This is where it's going to go. You didn't like that answer, did you?
Madam President, maybe to follow up to Member De Lorenzo's question, from the bridge group, we do see it very similar to the Cloverdale Bridge project. So we like to say we already have the plans, at least a template that we could use Commissioner to guide and help out with as well. And it is typical of a lot of other projects. What we like, I think, from ITD perspective, there's no ramps planned. It's an overcrossing, so that makes it easier, right? It could really help school and local community circulation on the adjoining interchanges to a degree, but definitely mostly for local traffic, I guess. And I know the city's done a great job investing to date in supporting ACHD and the ITD team, city team. So I want to thank everybody for the teamwork. Thank Rachel as well, Caleb's group. And Rachel, a question though, as the design analysis going through, could it be phased where phase one, you see how we're phasing on to the 3 phases on 16. Could it be phased to utilize the existing lanes, get the bridge done, do the right-of-way phase 2, just to, for funding consideration? Is the team looking at that?
Madam President, board member, currently, because we literally just started, we haven't explored that, but that's something that I can most certainly put in the back of my mind to have our team look at.
Great. Thank you.
Madam President.
Madam President,
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to thank you, Dan. I think that's important. I think one of the things in looking at the whole system is recognizing that there were some gaps at the time that, 5 Mile and Cloverdale and Eagle overpasses were built. We probably should have had one at Linder built, but it wasn't. So this is filling a gap. It's also the single most important thing we can do to mitigate congestion is connectivity, improving the choices that people have to travel across. And so, the challenge, of course, is that we can't have an at-grade crossing in the interim on this one. we actually have to go over. So I think that's why ACHD has made this a priority, and why we want to see this. We see this as something that's missing from the past that needs to be filled in to make the current system work. We've got other things that are missing from the past, but this is the one that we're talking about today that we think we ought to be moving forward on. And I appreciate your perspective on that, Dan.
Thank you. Commissioner McCain?
I just want to say that, speaking just for myself, but it seems to me that as the commission goes into our discussions and consideration of our budget for 2023, looking forward, that establishing the funding for this Linder Road Overpass project, in my opinion, is one of our top priorities. And if we can put that in place, that's absolutely something that I want to do, and that I'm going to push as much as I can.
All right, thank you. President Bickering.
I don't know if this is a question for you, Mr. Chair, or Scott.
Throw it out there.
Whatever. But I think along those lines of what Commissioner McKinney's point, as well as from my education, is how do you all work to identify those funding streams and then communicate and work with partner agencies like ourselves to realize the success of those projects? Because so much of it is, some of it has to be our portion, some of it's your portion, right? And there's all these different funding streams that you guys might be pursuing that we have no idea that you are, or that if we came together and strategically worked together, that we could realize the success of those projects. So, I mean, how do we do that currently? And is there ways that we could work together in light of Linder Road and perhaps other projects that follow that type of
And I would think that that would be definitely part of the calculus that is put into these projects and these team meetings. I think that's why those are so important, to have this coordination going on between all the different agencies. So it would be my expectation that those conversations probably are ongoing. So, and they have.
I want to speak before Scott and Julie, because they always take all my words.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
A great question, and starting Wednesday, we'll be in Lewiston with our public outreach meetings. And what we have done is each month we've rotated to different districts, giving our ITIP program, our TECM program, what's going out there, and invited all the stakeholders to come in, say, how is ITD's plans working with or interfering with the plans of the cities and municipalities, things like that.
And by stakeholders, do you mean staff to staff, or?
No, we have mayors, we have highway districts, we've got legislators, we have everybody that's in the districts to come in there and give examples to them. We realized before it's hard to get to a board member. The public can't get to me. So in a public meeting, we know we're pretty well limited, but in outreach meetings, we have the entire board sitting there waiting for questions. I'm sitting with the mayor of Gooding listening to what's important to their potholes. We need to know that, because the sensitivity to the board is, these are the patrons. That's what we're doing right now. Now I have Julie DeLorenzo as our district person. She takes most of the heat with Caleb and that group, so I would defer to her, Madam Chair.
Yes, very graciously too.
President, yes,
Please.
we have a very active district here, District 3, and especially here in the valley, more so than other parts of my district. But specifically to the question about this project, I think Mayor Sinnison had only been in office a couple months when Caleb and I went out and met with them, and then Caleb and Dan and I went out and met with them, and then Bruce came, and there have been ongoing meetings on this project to include the city, ACHD, and ITD, because we knew we didn't have the funding for it when it first started being talked about it. We knew it was very important, but I don't believe at that time, when we first started being aware of it, I don't know that it was on ACHD's radar either. So, thanks to the mayor, it very quickly became on all of our radar. He's very good at convincing people, and especially when the city steps up. So thank you. I mean, obviously, the city is willing to invest in their infrastructure that they have no real control over. That's saying a lot. They need this. We're clear where the growth is going. I think we're all trying to figure out how do we put the pieces together, and the funding piece being a big part of it.
thought there was one other person that was ready to jump in.
I don't know.
Or-
With the EDOC.
Okay,
More on like agency to agency coordination of these different funding streams and to realize a project like this.
Right, and it's more important now than it was 5 years ago.
Right.
5 years ago, it was fairly easy because it was about keeping pavements in good condition and which 70-year-old bridge are we gonna replace next? And so now we do have opportunities to look at capacity and congestion. It was 2 years ago that the legislature allowed us the bonding capacity, which is when we started more design on Highway 16. But the last legislative session really changed it up, I think, for all of us, especially for ITD to think longer, expand our program so that we're being able to make those decisions. So that's why the board decided that, this year we're gonna go out and do these workshops. So it was in June, we did the District 3, local meeting where we're saying we have access to the entire board because we're gonna approve our 7-year construction program in September. So this is a perfect time to consider what those priorities are and are we, looking at the right things.
Just a follow-up
Follow-up?
question. Yeah, so aside from those stakeholder meetings, and you guys obviously are setting your budget and all that good stuff, there are other opportunities, policy windows that arise in between that 7-year plan. So in the interim too, what are those other elements and ways that we can continue to work together aside from those stakeholder meetings?
Probably would want Caleb to speak to that because Compass is certainly an important component of that where, that's where we coordinate our planning and our project scheduling and we have to be aligned, want to be aligned. And so, there's an extensive ongoing effort to be coordinated. If we want to get to that level of detail, I would say Caleb would have to help us with that.
Thank you. Caleb?
Madam President, Commissioner, we have a very good working relationship with your staff in the district. We meet annually, if not biannually, with staff to talk about our outlay, our plan, look for opportunities to partner together. Specifically on the Linder Overpass, we generically talked about the roadway portion being ACHD and the bridge being ITD funded in the future. We've also gone after jointly federal grant opportunities. In a similar fashion, 5-mile overpass is needed replacement, and we chased a grant there. We were not successful. We turned around and took the match that ITD put forward and Ada County put forward and said, let's roll forward with the work on our own. And so we've looked for opportunities like that to leverage match funding and opportunities at the federal level to try and improve the infrastructure. And these key overpasses are great examples of that. So there's always room for more coordination. Your point is well taken. But I think in general, the planning staff here at the County Highway District and also ITD District 3 are in coordination. And when we see opportunities thrown on both ways over the fence, and hey, what do you think about this? Should we chase this one? Should we chase that one? And how can we leverage the dollar forward?
Yes, Kelly? Very good. And I think those conversations have really increased and gotten better. And I think that's always been a priority to increase that collaboration and communication and have that conversation before those problems and issues arise. And so that's why, I hope to build on this meeting today. It's very important to have you all here with us, and we look forward to continuing that discussion and looking for new ways to access funding, et cetera, and move forward and take care of some of these projects around the district here. So we appreciate you being here with us today. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Rachel, very much. And this just takes us to the end. If there are any other comments or questions that anyone would like to bring up? If not, I will go ahead and adjourn the ACHD portion of this meeting. And again, very, very, very warm thank you to all of you for being here. And we look forward to our next meeting and keeping this conversation going. So thank you very much, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Mixed up.
Director Wong, do we kind of
There you
really
go.
get on your blue salt?
Yeah.
We still talking?
We're talking about it.
Yeah, you're kind of great. Yeah.